Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.
We believe in this opportunity to work in Web3, and people coming in will be a massive shift.
There's a lot of opportunities that are not, they're lost, and their people's skills and their what they're really capable of doing is not able to be shined through right now.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whoever you are. Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. We built the peer-to-peer Cerulean marketplace for creators who want to collaborate trustlessly and own their own reputation. We believe people should own their own brand. Today, we're talking to Aki from DLC.Link. We know Aki very well. We know DLC.Link and what they've built. They were on one of the very first episodes of Zero Authority Live back in 2021, which feels like a long time ago now, Aki. We're going to get into a lot of topics today. We're going to talk about what's the journey been like for DLC. We're going to talk about their cool slogan and tagline, "Move Bitcoin with code, not trust." That's going to be a big theme that we're going to discuss. DLC.Link, you guys raised a pre-seed funding round. That was a huge announcement a few years ago. You're multi-chain now, so you've branched out. Originally, when we met and when you went through the accelerator and got the grant at the time, you still were building out a couple of the V1s and kind of doing some prototype and testing. You're a lot further along now. It's been a while. We're also going to touch on you guys had received a Chainlink community grant, which is pretty cool to see as well. So we heard about DLC.Link back in 2021. At the time, there were not. I don't think there were like any options as far as like oracles on that were decentralized and on Bitcoin and could plug into other chains. Since that time, Aki, just give us a feel for how's it going, how's the journey been. I know a lot of things has happened since that time in 2021. The whole blow up of FTX, the crypto bear market, crypto winter 2022 was here, and now we're upon a new bull run here, and with the Bitcoin happening in sometime March, April 2024. With all that being said, how are you, friend?
Great. Yeah. It's great to like look back and just think of all the things that changed. The thing that did not change is that we're committed to, decentralizing things, self-sovereignty, permissionless, like that has not changed at any point. The mission is the same, but just in terms of what we're building, how we're building it, where we're building it, there's been a lot of change. But I guess, just to maybe, since you've kind of highlighted some of the early journeys, so we started working on this concept of DLCs, discrete log contracts. We were not the first people to look at DLCs. Basically 5 years ago, in 2018, Taj Dryja at MIT, the guy who co-created the Lightning Network, published this white paper proposing quote unquote smart contracts on Bitcoin that could be enabled using quote unquote a Bitcoin oracle. So Alice and Bob have Bitcoin, they lock into this DLC, this 2 of 2 multisig, and then let's say they make a bet and one of them wins the bet, and like one of them gets all the Bitcoin or some of the Bitcoin or whatever, and the Bitcoin oracle determines like how that's allocated. That was sort of the original idea, and Taj basically like showed the math around it, and he kind of illustrated how to make this a more secure system and a privacy respecting system, because this Bitcoin oracle basically does not know who the parties are. The Bitcoin oracle is just kind of like signing events using its private key, and then the parties are, have like a bet with particular amounts of Bitcoin, and it's abstracted away so that you're not locking Bitcoin with that Bitcoin oracle, that off-chain entity, and so on. So this is kind of a simple, really actually simple, elegant method. And he worked out the math. And then a company called ShoredBits, Chris Stewart and Nadav Cohen picked it up and just started basically like implementing it into like an early prototype using betting as an example. And they really worked on this for many years and built out a lot of the first implementations. And so they also formed like the DLC community. So fast forward to 2 years ago, we came in and we started looking at this, but what we realized is that there's a couple of things that need to be kind of adjusted, we think, because one is that the challenge that ShoredBits and others ran into is because two people were needed to do DLCs, but nobody knows what DLCs are at that point. Like, how do you get a market? Like, you just can't get any liquidity. It's like totally new. So we're like, well, instead of two people making a bet, why don't we have a human interfacing with an application, locking the Bitcoin with the application, and then there's stuff. And then on the other side, the application, like another user is using another application, and then the applications are talking to each other. And so you can make a market, which kind of led us down the path of what if we use DLC as a deposit mechanism, as a lockbox. You put your Bitcoin in this multi-sig, and you have this off-chain, quote unquote Bitcoin Oracle kind of, determining when to unlock your Bitcoin. So you can put your Bitcoin in something, use an app, do some finance, and then unlock it when you're done. And then the next revelation was like, let's think about this Bitcoin Oracle. Well, Chainlink has oracles, Pyth has oracles. There's all these oracle systems where they gather, data, and they can tell you where prices are. Can we apply that to this Bitcoin Oracle? Because the problem with the Bitcoin Oracle was this Oracle has to like magically know the outcome of anything, but you'd have different Oracle systems for different, reasons. And so what we realized is actually, let's take that Bitcoin Oracle concept and break it out into three components. One, you have a price feed Oracle like Chainlink. So you have Chainlink basically like telling you what the price is. And then that goes to a smart contract chain, like a blockchain, which does some sort of calculation based on that price. Let's say you're taking a loan and it's calculating your health score, your degree of collateralization on that loan. And then that sends a signal to a third entity or a third unit we call the DLC attester. And the attester basically can check it on chain, so it can verify the data. And then once verified, it can publish its attestation, which is the piece of data that's needed to move the Bitcoin back to you. So now, in our structure, you basically have a deposit into an application. You can have all kinds of composable, logic and components and oracles and things like that doing things. And then that determines, when your Bitcoin is ready to unlock or move or whatever. And so now that looks very much like Aave. That looks like a typical system. And there are many smart contract languages and chains and different things, but this could be implemented. So AKA, this could be like an off-chain way to use Bitcoin in DeFi on any system, any chain, anywhere. And that's basically, that was kind of like our aha moment. And that's what we've been building to today. So you're using Bitcoin, you're keeping Bitcoin in its native state. It's like L1 Bitcoin. You lock it into a DLC where you hold one of the keys. It's a 2 of 2. So you lock it with a protocol, you hold one of the keys. Any individual deposit is unique to you. The output path of the DLC can sends the Bitcoin to you. Kind of another feature of DLCs is when you make the deposit, you pre-sign where the Bitcoin can go. So even if the whole DLC thing is hacked, the hacker cannot change that pre-signed address. Bitcoin can only go back to you, or the addresses that are pre-signed. So it cannot be like stolen, cannot be cracked in that way. It's like a theft-proof locking mechanism. And then you can put it in any protocol on any chain. And so, kind of get back to the story of Stacks. Then Stacks gave us a big grant and helped us a lot, to build this on Stacks. So you can use Stacks as a smart contract layer and Stacks as oracles, or you could use Solidity. You could do it in RSK. You could do it on Ethereum. You could do it on Cosmos, Evmos, whatever you want. If it's Clarity or Solidity, we support it. And that's been a lot of our work. And so now, fast forward to today, we have our commercial product or a commercial line of business where we're basically enabling people to use their Bitcoin in financial transactions, to earn yield or to, lend it out or, lend, borrow, or kind of different financial transactions. And then we've got our community business where we support anyone who wants to build on Bitcoin and wants to implement DLCs. We've got our libraries, we've got our wallet libraries, anything you need, we support it. So we kind of do, both the community to grow the ecosystem around DLCs and commercial to, fund our business and build a, cash generating business on top of it.
Yeah. So thanks for that background and history. I know a lot has happened in a short amount of time. When we first met you guys, that was a year and a half ago, it was primarily Solidity, Clarity, which is still the case, but I think we all realize it's going to be a multi-chain world. How's kind of just especially everything that blew up after 2022 and even like the recent FTX blew up, I think it was even more of a conviction from people that we need permissionless, trustless systems that are decentralized.
Yes.
And being able to do more with your Bitcoin. What do you think some of the biggest takeaway for what you're building with the DLC.Link, and does it just give you more conviction for what DLC is trying to do?
Yeah, definitely. I never want to speak ill of anyone, but even when we entered this business, or we heard about DLCs, it just seemed like if you want to do finance with Bitcoin, you have to use a centralized entity or a company that somewhere along the line is centralized, or you have to use, some sort of, if you're trying to do something decentralized, there's some bridge and somewhere they pool your Bitcoin and that can be stolen. And it's not because, the designs have been, malevolent or people are trying to rug you. It's just like all of the existing designs just didn't make any sense to us. Why would you take the world's most decentralized asset and give it to a centralized custodian, even for a minute, when that could be an issue or a vulnerability, make it subject to fraud? I mean, FTX was, clear fraud. You also have the wormhole hack, Ronin hack, like all these other hacks, which are, anything can happen because these are, anytime some smart contract update is pushed, it's all open source. You have 9 billion people who has the, inclination, motivation, and skills to be able to hack it can hack it. So like, cannot trust. It's almost like, any bridge is sort of destined to have its vulnerabilities and so on. And so that was sort of the logic. And not to say that, a DLC design has no vulnerabilities, because it does. But, we believe the vulnerabilities were less because you're locking it with yourself, basically.
You're not just handing it over, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're not sending it like, you're not generating a deposit address, send it to like, this protocol, and then we'll put it in this wallet and like, we'll keep it really, really safe. It's actually designed to be, the Bitcoin can only go to the addresses that you have pre-signed, you have pre-approved when you make the deposit. And the DLC can only close once, once the payout has happened, you've got your deposit back or whatever those payouts are. That's it. That DLC is closed. If you want to make another deposit or use it somewhere else, make another DLC. But it makes it very deterministic, kind of no surprises. There is still risk in that system. I mean, one of the risks is, what if there's some smart contract issue or program issue or some other infrastructure issue and your DLC cannot close? Then your Bitcoin is locked potentially forever. So, I mean, it's not like it's just a magic bullet that just takes care of everything. But the one central feature of that, the addresses cannot be changed, that is, really, really important. So that, that luckily that's been the same from day one. We have not seen any reason like that has never changed. That's kind of the foundation. What has changed is it's like, okay, cool. Like when you want to build on Bitcoin, what asset do you put in? So now you can have ordinals or BRC20s or on Lightning. You can have Taproot assets. So kind of the nature of the asset might change, but all of those things, you can also put them in DLCs. So there's ways to do that on either main chain or on Lightning. So, it's just the DLC is just a conditional payment. It's like an if-then statement on top of it. So, you can put an if-then statement on top of any of those assets. So that's great. If it's linked to a SAT, you can put the SAT in and you've got the asset there. So that's one thing. And then, where might you want to deploy this? You might want to do it on, you might want to do it on whatever, ETH, Stacks, name your chain. Cosmos has some really cool native Bitcoin support chain, one called Zeta chain. That's really interesting. But there's all these kind of, places where you might want to have Bitcoin liquidity. So we're kind of like enabling the, provision of Bitcoin liquidity into other aspects of crypto. And then the user, the Bitcoiner, can choose what strategy they want to do, what chains do they like, what yields are they chasing, what kind of lending terms would they take on a loan. Like all of that can be figured out, by the user kind of has that choice.
Have you been surprised by the rise of ordinals?
Little bit, but not too much. I was surprised by the rise of NFTs. As art forms, because when I first heard of NFTs, I'm like, this is great. You could put a patent in an NFT, you could put a real estate title, you could put some and then it's like, you could put like monkey JPEGs, I guess. But then the monkey JPEG they kept going on, and there's reasons for that. And I'm not belittling it. It's just like I was surprised at the other kind of financial and legal instrument versions of NFTs have not yet taken off. So people still think of NFTs as art. So in that sense, I'm like, okay, well, if we're even just the art side is compelling to people, ordinals seem to mirror that. But I love the fact that ordinals are using Bitcoin resources and running on the Bitcoin network. That makes sense to me. And great. So I wasn't. What I was maybe more surprised by is I was surprised that people were surprised you can build on Bitcoin. I don't know. Like I was surprised at some of the philosophical and religious conversations that happened around that time. Like, wow, Bitcoin, is it really relevant? And it's like, well, just because something is like quietly growing doesn't mean it's not relevant.
Totally.
People, it's not like that. Bitcoin became like the hot new thing, and I'm like, but it's always been the hot thing. I mean, you look at the charts; it's always up top. Like it's not like it's because previous to that, I had talked to investors and some others where they're like, "Oh, we think Bitcoin's going to go to zero or like go away, and ETH is going to dominate everything." I'm like, well, I just don't see the basis for that since it's $600 billion that came out of nowhere in 15 years. I don't see it going to zero. Why would anyone believe that? But no, so it's good. It's good to have the youthful energy back.
Well, I was really pleasantly surprised the whole ordinals and seeing the actual use cases. Like, okay, we can. It isn't dominated by Bitcoin maxis anymore. Like I don't even know where maybe they're all on Nostr now. I have no idea where they are. So one of the things and here's why I'm like curious too on your take. I mean, Bitcoin taught me about like macroeconomics and why we have the Feds and yield curve and stuff like that. Ordinals taught me more specifically about like UTXO and like rare Satoshis. And then for the first time, like I thought, I see why Bitcoin layers and layer twos. And I always thought like Stacks was well positioned for like to be like the Ethereum on Bitcoin. And I always thought that makes sense. But I'm even more convicted now that we will have applications and layers built on Bitcoin. We will have nation states running AI, doing automated things with Bitcoin. The narratives are funny too, because that narrative last bull run where, oh, well, ETH is going to flip Bitcoin. And now similar, I'm hearing, oh, Solana's going to flip ETH, right? Everyone is kind of like, oh, well, Bitcoin has run away. It's going to lead the pack from here. Who knows how long? but now they're like, oh, well, Solana's going to flip ETH for sure. Well, if you look at the market caps again, it would have to do a lot of catching up to get to where they are currently. Now, that's not to say, like, I still believe a multi-chain world exists, like in the future, and it's already starting to happen. You're not going to care if you're using Stacks, Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, right?
You won't even know.
No one asks you, Aki, are you guys using AWS, Google Cloud, or DigitalOcean? Like, I need to do something. I need to pay my bills. Can I just use this application, right? Is that kind of how you see the future going forward?
Yeah, I like to sometimes, especially late Friday nights, think about like, is Pepsi gonna flip Coke? Is Mountain Dew gonna flip Pepsi? Because it's basically
you need to start replying on Twitter when you see like Solana's going to flip ETH. You know what I really want to know is Mountain Dew going to flip Pepsi?
Yeah. When is what's that? Dr. Pepper. When's Dr. Pepper making a comeback? Is fans, you know, or whatever. But that's literally it. We're in a multi-chain world. You know, we're using streamlabs.com. I have no idea if they're running AWS or Azure. I will never find out, or, you know, don't care, don't know. You know, we happen to be infrastructure builders at a particular level, so we talk to different chains and L2s and stuff, but that's just because that's like immediate to us. But I think people get really into it, which is cool because you didn't really have this before, and part of it is the sort of crowdfunding concept. You know, came around a couple of years ago when Congress passed the crowdfunding act, of the Jobs Act or whatever, and now people could put like $100 into startups. And now you could like have skin in the game, not just be a consumer of, you know, Facebook or whatever, and be the source of monetization, but actually own a chunk of it. While with crypto, obviously you can also buy the token and also yada yada and stake, and like it takes it to another level. So it's cool for, you know, everyone to have skin in the game. It does kind of create the, you know, narratives that get pretty divorced from the science and technical aspects, and that's not necessarily a horrible thing. Just like, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, every system is like, it has its technical, you know, characteristics and whatever, and then there's the media marketing around it, and then there's sort of manipulating the public image. And so you see a lot of things in crypto because these are all colliding. But the way I like to think of it is like another analogy I figured out earlier, and kind of it's really stuck. I've stuck with it, is like Unix. You know, like you know, developing on Unix is really boring. Like, how many Unix developers are there? Not many, but it does run Mac, and, you know, all of like AWS and all of Android and everything runs on Unix, but nobody knows it because it's like this obscure thing. And then you also have Windows, and Unix was like open source and, you know, maintained by these like gray beard, long haired devs. And then, you know, you have Windows, which was commercially funded, and, you know, whatever. And that's like Ethereum, and, you know, there's like just different, you know, different approaches, and it's all good. But yeah, I don't think, I think the rails, you know, Bitcoin being the rails with the mining network, you have one proof of work chain. You don't need another, really. I mean, unless I'm missing something, you really don't. So like, cool, like let's use that to secure, you know, high value assets. And then, you know, small stuff can happen on L2s, whether it's Lightning or, you know, Arbitrum L2s of varying natures. And, you know, so I don't know. I'm kind of jumping all around, but to me, it's like good. We're in this multi-chain world.
I did want to ask you, because there's a lot of interest, especially like from companies building, people thinking about, okay, I have this product. Do I take the next steps? So you guys closed a pre-seed round, and that was what, 2 years ago now, or
we started raising pre-seed 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, and we just closed it with the last kind of like round of investors. Oh. You were playing. I'm like, what's going on?
Let me give you a hand clap.
Thank you.
You're like, if someone Is someone in my home?
I'm like, yes, these are children. I'm on the 37th floor. There's children flying out the window.
I never get to play those reactions, so that was cool. That I should have gave you a
You
heads
got
up.
me.
So,
No, it's great. No,
but
I'm gonna
but
watch the
like
recording.
tell us about that journey and like how did it go? Like at the time, it it was still tough, especially the narrative about building on Bitcoin. Like a lot of VCs and what I heard is like, no, you need to be on Ethereum and all these other layers, and maybe I'll look at you guys.
Yeah, it was like I used to work in VC a long time ago, like 12 years ago, and then I became a startup founder and raised VC for my last company. One thing I like about VC, I mean, not everyone loves fundraising, and you don't necessarily need it, depending on what the idea is. But one thing I do like about it is it really pushes you front and center, and forces founders to talk to smart people with money. And they're not all smart, and they don't all have money, but by and large, like the ones you want to talk to are really smart and have a lot of money. So you really kind of navigate toward these very high level, high impact strategic conversations, which is great, which forces, me as a founder to really be able to explain what we do succinctly and to different audiences who believe different things. And so that was cool. So in the case of this, by design, DLCs use off-chain data. They are maybe more similar to RGB or BitVM in the sense that it's taken Bitcoin and introducing off-chain data. So by design, there is no like Bitcoin only way of doing a DLC, because you need the off-chain data to come from somewhere. And so that's going to be another chain, whether it's a L2 or whatever. So like from day one, we started talking to both Bitcoin people and DeFi people, and they're, traditionally different audiences, although they are kind of converging, which is nice to see, because I think that's the future. But basically, like when we started, I mean, it was kind of interesting because we started on the Chainlink side, which is squarely supporting DeFi on ETH. And then we got to Stacks, which is on the Bitcoin builder side. But even Stacks is sort of this like, layer on top of Bitcoin. So it's like one's, pro Bitcoin, but on the other hand, they have their own chain stacks and their own token and whatever. So it's sort of weaving through there, and then kind of, so we've been kind of weaving around, and I'm pretty like kind of delighted at not just like the fact that we closed it and the amount of funding, whatever, and the fact that we needed the money to, continue development. All of that is true. But the fact that we have Bitcoiners and we have DeFi people, and these different worlds colliding, and it's really represented in our ownership. It's, I don't want to say 50-50, but it's it's kind of equally represented. And we've got so we get different perspectives, and we have the opportunity to kind of explain one side to the other and the other side to the other. And for example, DeFi people have not heard of DLCs. Bitcoiners, many of them have heard of DLCs. They just didn't really know what it's for, or they knew of different approaches, but not what we're doing. And so like, we're sort of just, I guess, creating awareness and creating conversations, between different camps. And then another interesting feature of this fundraise is the most recent funds, like 6 out of 7 funds are APAC based, Asian, Chinese, Singapore based, Taiwan based funds. Mm-hmm. And then, we also have the US based, I'm based in the US, and then we have some coverage of Europe, my co-founders in Europe. And so now it's also like a global thing. So now I'm on like, explaining DLCs via a translator in Chinese, in Mandarin, and then also, kind of introducing our Asian investors to US Bitcoin experts and vice versa and whatever. So it really kind of, I think it helps, underscores kind of the global nature, the fact that everyone's impacted by this, the, kind of ways to work together, traditional finance people with DeFi, degens, with Bitcoin, developers, with everything. So it's just, it's like a way to have like a community of kind of bringing together two different teams that would not have traditionally met each other. And then it's like, the synergies from that are significant.
One of the things you just said that I kind of didn't realize, like you're educating on both sides, right? Because if you're on ETH and you're using DeFi, you're like, well, what is DLC and why do I need it? I just swap my my Bitcoin to BTC on Stack or on ETH, and I use it. So like, why would I
WBTC.
even need that? They don't. A lot of people don't even put it together. Like, well, there's someone holding my Bitcoin, and I'm
Yes.
just taking a receipt, right? And then like on the Bitcoin side, like, well, there's at the time, there was, well, I could get some interest rate on my Bitcoin by going to these centralized players, like the BlockFlies of the world, the Celsius of the world, and well, why do I need a DLC.Link? And there are some bridges and stuff like that, right? So there's like a lot of I didn't realize the education on like just both ends is enormous.
Yeah, I've even been. I mean, this is so I guess a little bit about my kind of motivation for this is my dad was a scientist all his career, scientific communication. Like when you invent something, he was inventing basic inventions in the areas of nanomedicine, nanocomposites, dendrimers, which is a type of nanocomposite, kind of other nano materials for cancer research, that kind of thing. And so like when you have these scientists in labs and stuff and mathematicians, and then like the next step is you invent some new approach and you have to explain it and you have to productize it. And so that became kind of my professional goal. And so my previous company, I invented a way to use AI to optimize content. And then I spent 10 years explaining to the SEO industry why this form of topic modeling and topic, analysis is superior to like keyword stuffing and like stuff that they were, previously doing that were more hacky. And I built a company around that. So for me, like a surprising amount of my time is just like, explaining to really smart people, like filling in parts of the puzzle that they are less aware of. And it's like different parts of the puzzle for different people. But the cool thing is everyone's really smart. So, these are developers, these are people who have, a lot of like skin in the game, money on the line, years, they believe, many of them motivated by the cypherpunk ethos, which I can't claim to be like a long-standing, leader in, but I certainly appreciate and coming from Hungary, which has its, challenges, and the US, which has its challenges and whatever. I see the opportunity for a better future using technology. And so it's just a cool way to kind of like unlock things. So for example, like WBTC has the same issue that, sending your Bitcoin to a custodian at Swan or whatever is that then there's an entity holding it, which if you're into Bitcoin because it's censorship resistant, it is not. When it gets to a custodian, it doesn't, it loses that property, etc. It's pooled, it loses decentralization. And that's not to say these services are bad. It's just that's like V1 stuff. That's early, ways of implementing. And if we have better ways through technology, like let's use that. And these services should use that. So we've actually talked with, Kyber. They're the people who co-invented WBTC. We've talked to BitGo. There's just general interest in making things better from all of these organizations. It's not like, it was built to solve a real problem, a real big problem that exists today. And now we're trying to, use these technologies to create better mousetraps and to the benefit of all. So yeah, it's just kind of filling in these gaps. And
I forgot you had that background in AI, and not to dive into the rabbit hole on AI, but there's been a lot of advances lately. You're probably keeping your eye on that space. You also mentioned BitVM too. For BitVM, like what are you seeing that's curious and interesting about it? I haven't seen much. I don't know like when. I think the mainnet would be pushed out somewhere in 2024. But what is it though? Like, why are people excited about BitVM?
I think it opens up just and I would say my awareness like of the details is pretty low. I'm pretty new to BitVM. I read some stuff on it, read the white paper immediately, that week. I tried to dig in, but I just haven't seen enough like practical implementations to really be able to speak to the differences between like BitVM and RGB and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's all very new. But basically, it's a new way. I would put BitVM a little bit in the category of DLCs in that it's using some form of NRGB. I mentioned using some form of off-chain computation to extend the ability for Bitcoin to be kind of processed using complex logic without introducing like a side chain or an L2 on top of Bitcoin. You're taking the computation somewhere else and then doing some sort of checking, different kind of dispute resolution and so on, but you're basically like adding functionality in this way. The way that, I guess we connect to that, and this might be highly synergistic, and we're actually talking to a BitVM team. We're early in conversations, but we've shared all our work with them, is with the DLC, you just need something to like trigger that attester to publish the attestation, and maybe we connect that, or they can connect that to their BitVM Oracle, and however that all works. But it's just a cool way to, another way to build on Bitcoin. So I think it's, that's why I really believe in kind of, we've structured our business as our commercial business where we build things that make money, and our community business where we support the general ecosystem. And I really like the experimentation nature of the community business and the people who are looking at stuff like that, because that's where, new discoveries come from.
No, for sure. You touched on the Chainlink community grant, and I know that was probably like the first piece, and then moving into more on Stacks. But like, what did the Chainlink community grant give you guys the ability to do? I know you touched on it, but like, was it important in terms of like getting this thing off the ground and getting that support early on?
Yeah, it just gave us some legitimacy, gave the idea some legitimacy. Chainlink, props to those people. Everyone I've met at Chainlink is just top tier. And people who, used to work at Chainlink and left top tier, like anyone I've interacted with there has been great. Early on, they just found this really exciting. They started having a lot of conversations internally around, what does this mean? Can you have oracles on Bitcoin, or like, what does that oracle do? And they just put that trust in us to kind of go and do almost, now I think of it as like a feasibility study. Like we were convinced we can build a prototype that would show them the system working. From their perspective, they were probably like, all right, let's throw some, link token at these guys and see if anything comes back. And props to them. They've been in touch, since then. We're close with them. They help us in any way possible. They made all kinds of intros. Even I've asked for intros that have totally not panned out, but they, they kind of take the early risk on us every time. So that's really great with a really big organization with hundreds of people, that they are still willing to like take the early risk on a bunch of like intrepid, kind of swashbuckling, but a little bit, ignorant founders. Like there's a lot we don't know, but like we'll, hopefully make it. But no, but they took the early risk. They published.
The more I see about, and this interesting too, because I didn't know Sergey, the founder of Chainlink, and Munib, founder of Stacks, were in a co-working space back in 2013, kind of side by side, working on their own projects and stuff. But the more I see of Chainlink and the whole CCIP protocol, where they have this interlinking communication between the blockchains, the more I think they will stand out as we continue to go into the future, where it will be like probably one of the most important companies in Web3. And it won't matter whatever blockchain pops up or exists, they'll just be able to extend and create some more solutions for people that need it. Like there's all, we talk about narratives, like the narrative about like XRP working with banks, like it's just narratives to me. Like you actually see CCIP, and then you see Sergey and Chainlink at their SmartCon, their conference for smart contracts. And then you see Swift there doing presentations. You see the head of American Express, Visa. Like they don't talk about it, but I mean, obviously, you see the partnerships and it's impressive. But they are building, and I've been like so impressed with what they're building. So just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, that's what well said, and that's what I try to look at is, I mean, just like anyone, either as a developer or as an investor, you're looking at like how quickly are updates getting pushed, what's the cycle time, like where is there real traffic, where's there, action, and you kind of go to where the action is. And Chainlink's been great. In fact, the first thing we built with the Stacks grant was a chain link connector infrastructure, which isn't it's still like in our GitHub, and one day it will get like dusted off and used, I think. But for other reasons, I guess Chainlink isn't on Stacks at this point yet, but I'm sure at one point it will be. But yeah, like it's just there's a lot of like real resources being put into this stuff. And the cool thing about Chainlink, I later learned, is that they did like an ICO, and they're like selling their reserve to fund their operations, and they're just like, it's all like basically funding all this research and development, and it's like really a lot of R&D to kind of build businesses, like to stand up businesses for the next 50, 100 years, like, or whatever, like businesses that might not pan out for some time from a profit standpoint, but they're making all these, they basically crowdsourced a bunch of funds from, intelligent people with small amounts of money, and then they're like investing that to create value, to create the businesses of future, to serve, those people. There's something really cool about that.
There is, like, back in 2017, and I still remember the whole ICO stuff. They actually, if you think about it, like, they were the blueprint. Like, they actually built a working product that's important in Web3, and they did it through an ICO, which is even more impressive because it's just a bunch of people who believe, like, I believe you're gonna. I'm sure there's a lot of people who, like, just threw money at it because it was cheap, and they're like, I don't know what this Chainlink thing is, but connecting blockchain seems important to me.
Sure.
So we have a couple minutes left. Aki, it's been great catching up with you, and I've always been impressed with what DLC is building. In the pre-chat before we started the live stream, we were talking about what we're trying to do at Zero Authority DAO. We created this peer-to-peer Cerulean marketplace, and we're working on the final bugs during testnet. But I was asking you, how can we use DLC to be able to, like, create a way for native payments? And then you and I, we just started kind of talking about some ideas, and I said, and you said, why don't we just do it during the live conversation? And I said, what better way to conceptualize how do you use DLC in your protocol and get it like a working product? So just a quick overview. A lot of people know in our community, we were always working with a lot of people in Stacks and Bitcoin, even on Ethereum, and we see people working together. Whether you're working together in Twitter, on Discord, on Signal, on Telegram, we thought there has to be a better way to have a trustless way that's decentralized and permissionless to work together, where we could also own that reputation. I was talking to a developer, and I was asking him, if your account got blocked or suspended on Twitter or on GitHub, and you had to start over, how devastated would you be? And they expressed, like, I'd be really devastated because it's taken me the last 5 to 10 years to develop my reputation and have credibility, and it's all on these pages. So that's really what we're trying to achieve. Like, when someone comes in and you connect your wallet here, you'll be able to make someone an offer, and it's easy as being able to, let me get out of this, sign the message on your profile, update that profile. Over time, what we want to do is create a SIP, a SIP standard for profile data, and being able to connect that once you connect your wallet. But it's pretty easy. Find people who are providing that type of service, and say that that's what you want in the scope of work. Put all that information here. Decide how much you want to grant. Over time, we'll have some intelligent metrics and analytics to say, this is what the going rates are for these things, and this is how you should get the best creators. Or if you want to work with people who are new, you'll be able to do that as well. But what we would love to do over time is be able to, and see, we have the smart contract creates a gig. And with the smart contract, you have this on-chain reputation as well, where I've sent you a request, you accepted the request, and we're working together. So it's just another way to like have some reputation on chain. Over time, what we'd love to do is be able to use DLC or a system where we can have some native Bitcoin payment. How would we go about doing that, Aki?
Yeah. So I'll kind of answer it from just the infrastructure way. A lot of our initial work was building the DLC capability into Bitcoin wallets because the wallet needs to be able to create this DLC. And so like that took a while. That took over a year. That took a year, let's say. But it is now live in Lather Wallet and it's coming to Xverse in Q1, probably January, February. So step one is get Lather Wallet or get Xverse next year. But Lather already has this in production. You don't need anything special. So you get Lather Wallet, or your users will need Lather Wallet to do this. Second, from you as a protocol builder, take a look at our installation instructions on docs.dlc.link. We have clarity and solidity, docs.dlc.link. There you go. And then there on the left, installation and setup. Like a couple down, boom, right there. You've got kind of like basically you want to pick stacks, clarity, or solidity and read this part. This is the part you're implementing. The good news is it's pretty straightforward. Just think about open DLC, close DLC, and that's what you're implementing. We do have like a reg test. We basically have our own like test net that we run that makes it faster to develop on. We can give you access to that if you join our Discord and just like ping us in like the development channel or whatever, and we'll set up a private room and you can talk to our developers. We run these at testers. So that's another part of our service offering for developers is you need at least one attester, but it's safer for production loads. You want to have multiple attesters. Yeah. So we're building a network of 7 node operators that are serving as attesters that can do like a 5 to 7 threshold. And these node operators are like people you would expect to see like Republic, Galaxy, all nodes, like big kind of name brands in node operation, the node operator industry. So, so on test, you can use our testers for free. And then on production, you might want to use that for these attestations. But basically, that's all you need to know. We've got the tester handled. We've got the wallet handled. You just need to kind of implement this code into your protocol and define the UX and the user flows and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Do you give some examples on the UI UX to implement?
Yeah, we haven't documented it as extensively. There is some documentation in the Lather Wallet docs, which if you go up to partners on the left-hand side, and maybe we should make this more accessible, and you go down a little bit to Hero Wallet, which we should also rename, that link we'll like spike this link out after later tonight. But basically, this is like kind of gives you some sense for what the UX looks like on the wallet side, and then we can just work with you on through that, like in our Discord we can advise on the UX. But basically that's like you've got like 1 or 2 screens. You've got the DLC create the offer, your lock stuff, and then you have the unlock, and then you have how you represent it in your system.
Okay, great. Yeah, so when I'm just like really impressed because I remember when you started and now it's just like you go to your docs, set it up, and you're ready to go. I mean, at the time when we met, a lot of this wasn't even built. A lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the primitives, we were still talking about like how would this look, and that's it kind of gets me on this different train where your slogan here, move Bitcoin with code, not trust, that resonates with a lot of people. It really does. It resonates with me, and being able to ordinals too. And I've always held the belief where I believe people were going to use their Bitcoin to spend it in daily transactions, maybe on the Lightning Network, maybe on Stacks, maybe on RSK with some of the enhancements that you could do for DeFi. I always thought people are going to spend their Bitcoin, because how could you be on the Bitcoin standard if you're not spending your Bitcoin, right? So with the whole emergence of ordinals, that showed people, yeah, people do want to spend their Bitcoin. I mean, I've spent my Bitcoin on some ordinals, and I really love it. I bought some for my daughter. She's a baby, she doesn't know, but one day she'll fit them in her wallet. And now that we're about to launch our marketplace where you can have permissionless, trustless, decentralized, just all of that rolled into one, and then on top of that, be able to pay someone for this collaboration in Bitcoin. That really resonates with me, man. I'm really impressed.
I would love to get paid in Bitcoin. That's a cool idea. I should talk to my boss. Maybe we could do that. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. It really just opens up a lot to just have these tools available for anyone. And I found that, like, I'm just an engineer. We build like one thing or two things, we make it work really well, documented. But then the entrepreneurs and business users and people have so many ideas on how to use this in various ways. That's like, it's really that kind of openness. It's like greenfield opportunity to build better versions of things that we have in the real world, rebuild it in these trustless ways. It's very exciting. So I'm excited for this use case. I try to keep a catalog of all the use cases we've seen, and it's a lot more than I mean, we hear of new ones every week.
That's interesting. I mean, to wrap up, I was going to ask you, like, what are you hearing from creators and builders? Like, what are people thinking to build? Like, so for us specifically, we don't fit into the current models. Like, where are you building DeFi? Are you building a DAO or DAO tooling or DeFi tooling, or is it ordinals or NFTs? And we have to explain to people, well, no, what we're doing is really we believe people should own their own brand and their own reputation. And then they'll say, well, what do you mean about that? And I give that example all the time, where any one of us, we could be taken off of a platform today and our accounts could go away. But like, that reputation that you built over time, you should be able to own that. And it should be able to be represented in some type of format. That's what we believe, that over time, people will want to own their own brand and their own reputation, and be able to take that reputation wherever you go, right? That's the power of Web3, plugging into this protocol, that marketplace, and being able to connect my wallet, and I grant you access to my reputation, and I could take that away at any time. It's not that you take that away from me, I can take it away from you. And that's the privacy and security aspect of, and that feeds into what DLC is doing as well.
Yeah, and now that you put it that way, maybe I have been more aligned to cypherpunk ethos that I gave myself credit to earlier, because my last company was content optimization, content marketing, and a lot of my friends went to like Facebook and whatever and walled gardens, and they frankly made a lot of money that way, and great, cool. My mom still uses Facebook. Great, no disrespect for Meta or whatever, but I always thought content was interesting because it is your digital, it's the stuff you leave behind. Not to make be very dark there, but it's the stuff you create, the stuff that gets added to the collective knowledge of humanity. If you write something that is new, that has new knowledge in it, new information, it gets aggregated in Google, fed to now ChatGPT. It was always like this, that the thing that you can look at someone's writings or their content and kind of understand who they are, and learn things that way, and thought leadership. So content, when it first came out, content marketing was this sustainable competitive advantage. If you know more about some topic than other people, then write content about it.
That's interesting, Aki. Like, I remember the beginning of content marketing, and it's funny you say that, because a lot of people didn't understand, well, why would I put all this content out for free? And it's no. It's because you want to be the source. You want to be the expert. You want to lead people to the water, and then ask and have people ask, why, who knows about this water? Well, you do. You know about it, right?
Yeah, like water nerds. We're DLC nerds. We like nerd out on DLCs deeper, harder than arguably than maybe short bits. I give them a lot of credit because they're really core like cryptographers and core devs.
Yeah.
But like the way we've taken DLCs into a new domain, I think this is, we work with Nadav, who was the co-founder of SureBits. He's always pleasantly surprised, and the others in the DLC community are kind of surprised and interested to see like what like directions we've taken it. But that's right. Yeah, it's an expertise. And the cool thing about content is it really helps people. It creates educated consumers. I mean, I grew up in Hungary, part of the Soviet bloc when I was born in '85. What's the difference between, the Soviet bloc and the US back, so many years ago, maybe even today? Consumer education here is a priority. Like you want to know what you're eating, what you're buying, you want to read about it, you want to analyze it. There's all these YouTubes about, I mean, heck, we're on one right now, but like there's all this like, content forums where you're like analyzing which game's better, which shoe's better. And there's, and you're asking intelligent question as a consumer of the product even, versus in other, in the centralized system, they were like, this is shoe, you wear shoe, like shoe, you barefoot, and it's like, that's it. And there's no opportunity for improvement, or anything. Like the dialogue ends there. So this is like a ways to keep the conversation going. Now with, Web3 and blockchain and so on, now you can not only talk about it and influence it, but own the piece of it. And it's not like going to these like big, conglomerates and whatever, the lizard kings of the world, but now I'm just poking fun at but it's not going to venture capital owned systems. It might be venture capital might have owned some of it or might subsidize it, but the ownership is like an asset that is on a blockchain that in an immutable smart contract or in secured in various ways in your wallet. Like I just think it's I really think that's cool. Obviously not without its faults, because that asset becomes like a huge target for theft.
Yeah.
But the concept is cool, and we'll see more development.
I like how you kind of just laid it out there. And before we wrap, I do want to ask you one last thing. But when people who are new to Bitcoin are like Stacks or Ethereum, even like Chain.Link, and they don't have any, and they say, well, I hear about all these scams, why should I buy it? I like to say, imagine the internet is one stock that you could have bought in 1995 and then just hold on to that, and you own that one stock, and you get all the appreciation and all the upside over the next 25 years. That's how I think about like owning a piece of the network. I think Michael Saylor had said it best, like Bitcoin is like buying real estate in Manhattan in the year 1900 and just holding it. That really resonates with me. Before I let you go, Aki, what is the future of DLC.Link? What is the future of Bitcoin oracles? Or just, you said something interesting that I think about a lot, like where you created this piece of code, and right now, probably not even next year, but at some point in the future, someone's going to dust that code off and say, we want to use this for Ethereum and Bridget use these DLC links.
Yeah. So for us, our commercial business, all that leads up to what is our commercial business, which is actually really simple. We're looking to launch a non-custodial trustless bridge from Bitcoin to ETH. So we're launching a token called DLC.BTC. You can, it's a bridge. You can put your Bitcoin in, self-wrap it, so lock it in your own DLC, which is, where you hold one of the keys and where the addresses point to your wallet, so it cannot be stolen or rugged or hacked. And you put your Bitcoin in, you get DLC.BTC on as an ERC20 token. You can use it in financial transactions, lending, lend, borrow, LP pools like curve pools, that kind of stuff. And then you earn some yield while you're holding your Bitcoin. over those many years and generations. You can earn, a couple percent every year, which compounds. And so we're providing like a safer bridge for that. And then that enables composability, where all kinds of financial products can be built on top of that. And so kind of the net is we're looking to serve, Bitcoin institutions, Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin asset managers, people with Bitcoin, and companies that manage Bitcoin on behalf of their clients, to be able to offer them, traditional financial products, loans, credit, hedging, derivatives, investment products on that Bitcoin, but delivered through a DeFi method on various chains versus CeFi, because we've seen CeFi have its significant vulnerabilities, especially unregulated CeFi in crypto has fared extremely poorly. So Bitcoin miners, for example, they want to hedge against, they want to buy products to hedge against price movement of Bitcoin or whatever, electricity costs or whatever. They should be able to get DeFi hedge instruments on EVM, protocols that are, vetted, delivered through, trustworthy protocols, so on. But you want to put your Bitcoin into ETH in a safe way and not, use WBTC. Again, nothing against them personally, just that, you don't want BitGo to be an intermediary. You want to have a trustless, non-custodial way of using Bitcoin elsewhere. So anyway, that's like the little, contribution we're making, is we're making that bridge happen, and then all these cool financial products can happen on the other side.
Are you familiar with what Stacks is doing with SBTC?
Yes. Yeah. Also. Yeah.
Is there an interconnection with SBTC and DLC?
We've looked at that extensively. Probably not with SBTC. The nature of DLCs are that they're static. You open it and close it once. And the nature of SBTC is these keys rotate every 2 weeks. So it might not be part of that. It might be part of the, potentially it could be, DLCs could be in the Stacks bridge, used to like bridge over. I'm not sure. Yeah. Definitely Stacks ecosystems companies can use DLCs, like Liquidium, for example. We're working or we're talking to them and working with them soon. We want to put their ordinal in a DLC, and then the smart contracts and the oracles and whatever would potentially happen on Stacks or RSK, but I think more Stacks is maybe more positioned. So like building on Bitcoin could be accomplished through DLCs and Stacks, just not specifically in SBTC. But the difference with DLC BTC and SBTC is SBTC works in Stacks and DLC BTC works in Ethereum.
And I know you mentioned this, ordinals and BRC20, to that same like workflow, where if like someone was using our marketplace and they wanted to pay with a BRC20, would they still be able to use a DLC to do that?
Yes. So we are actually,
you have to use a DLC to pay with the BRC20.
Well, or they could just send the BRC20 without an escrow or locking mechanism, but it's safer if you lock the asset and then when the work is done, you release it. But that sort of like when ordinals first came out, people were sort of trading like, hey, I'll send it, like hit the button now, you hit your button, and like there was like a lot of trust involved. So that we just get rid of that by locking it until like an event happens that can be confirmed. But yeah, totally. BRC20, whatever assets are Satoshi inscribed or based, you can put the SAT in the DLC and go from there. So we're actually executing a Stacks Foundation grant to add that functionality, and I think that's going to unlock a lot of value for everyone.
Okay, I think that's needed. I think Alex does a really good job like bridging and being able to have their order books. And I mean, it's just like the beginning of ERC20, right? It was all new. No one knew how to do a lot of the things with the ERC20. And then you saw over time, people got more comfortable and created some real solutions. Well, Aki, this has been a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to using a DLC.Link, the oracles in our marketplace, and I can't wait till we launch on mainnet here, and then I'm able to give you a link and show you what we're doing with DLCs.
Thank you. Yeah, join our Discord. Anyone listening to this, please join our Discord, whether you're a developer or not, doesn't matter. You can DLC.Link, go to the bottom of the page. There's a Discord link. Just jump right in. We're posting news. We're going to have a community. We've got like, I don't know, a couple hundred people in there right now. Maybe we'll look back at this one day and be like, oh, I remember the time where we had a couple hundred people in Discord. That's cute. But it's something we're there. You can ping us. You can ping me. Just find us on Twitter. I mean, it's just, yeah, we love to, anyone who's looking at this, we'd love to engage. Send us your criticism, send us your, whatever constructive, critical feedback. It's all good. We learn from it all, and we really want to, make this work for everyone.
Well, appreciate your time today, sir, and I'll be in touch. So thanks so much, Aki.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.